I'd like to ask, you mentioned before, but I think it was kind of sad that Will Crowther wasn't in the movie.
Will Crowther made this game for his daughters because his wife had fallen in love with another caver and left him, and they had gotten divorced. And while trying to reconnect with his daughters, he made this little dumb game in about 2 months and showed people it and kind of used the cave he had been part of. But then he never went back to the caving community again. And for him, it's this painful little thing that he put together as a desperate divorcee in the 1970s. And then there's assholes like me in the 21st century, like, let's talk about that. And he just doesn't want to talk about it. It's just one of those things that's just kind of in his past. He doesn't want to kind of go, wow, it's starting to really get bright here. Jesus. He just doesn't want to be a part of that. And I talked to somebody who interviewed him in 1982, and even then he was like, you know, I worked really hard on the ARPANET. Like, he designed part of the packet switching network that we all use today. And people are like, yeah, that's cute, but what about Adventure? What about this little dumb Adventure? You know, it's like, and yeah, I could have ambushed him. I mean, I know where he lives. You know, and I'm just not going to do that.
So no kind of Michael Moore appearance at his house.
Yeah. You know. I don't think what really adds to the grandeur of a historical documentary is a shaky cam shot of a person running to their car while I scream questions. I don't think that really gives respect to the person. You made Adventure once, hey! You have to understand that you've just seen 1/3 of it. For instance, there's an entire meditation on the fact that when people would use text adventures and they weren't schooled in how you'd play them, that they were miserable. You know, like you'd show up and you'd be at a game and you'd write, take over kingdom, right? When the goal was to win by taking over the kingdom, and we'd go, what? Well, similarly, I have a whole thing on graphics. And one of the things is Infocom was definitely moving into graphics. And part of what killed them was that they didn't move fast enough into graphics. Sierra Online moved into graphics almost immediately. They only made 1 or 2 games that weren't. And so I don't know if it killed it in terms of the genre going on to live. Certainly up until the early 1990s, people made games like that. But I think what happened was that games started to move. You know this whole bullshit about AAA titles? Have you heard that term? AAA titles? It's one of the things that's really destroyed the games industry in terms of thinking of games as being just things, which is why I'm kind of excited about this, what they're now calling the independent games movement, IGF and so on, is that what happened is that the companies that would hire somebody to work for a year or a half year on a text adventure started dumping all their money into making graphic games that required 100 people and would take, 2 years to make and spend millions of dollars. And so it just could not compete. It's where the money went. Text adventures kind of just disappeared along with a lot of other types of games, actually. Other little things. We ended up going into everybody made a fighting game. Everyone made a first-person shooter. And they couldn't be bothered to try to make anything else, right? So I think that's a lot of what it was. Like right now we have this whole thing with sandbox games, right? And a sandbox game is a terrible time sink. You're requiring hundreds of people. You've got divisions and other locations where people do nothing but try to recreate a city block by block for 6 months, 12-hour days, right? There's no place for a thoughtful game in that. Now that we have this whole independent games movement, we're starting to see text adventures show up again. And we're starting to see people kind of bring them back.
Wikipedia is probably the biggest text-based game on the planet.
Yes, I've said that before too, and I agree.
It's like a massive multiplayer text game. Okay?
Oh yeah, no, those NPCs are assholes. I mean, they just jump on you, but you think that you're trying to do something, and suddenly you're attacked on all sides. It takes all of your effort to try to succeed. No, it's definitely a lot of fun.
That might be part of the problem why everyone is thinking of, hey, there's this old concept of what a text adventure is, but I mean, there's so many different ways to see like playing with text.
It's funny, you do a documentary on a relatively obscure subject like this. What I'm happy about it is it's something that's both obscure and not obscure, right? A lot of people know it, but a lot of people are surprised there's a documentary about it. Textadventures, as a subject, there's still a lot of cultural interest in them. I think that people are still doing exciting things with them. I think stuff is going on. Software is the bone, right? You can always download the software. But to get the meat, to understand why the software was created, what the thinking was, and why people like them or don't like them, I wanted to do interviews and documentary work.
A big applause for Jason Scott and great work. Thanks a lot.